The morning unfolded like silk, soft and translucent. Sophia woke before dawn, the world outside her window bathed in that delicate blue that exists between night and day, a color that feels like both ending and beginning. She lay still, eyes half open, listening to the sound of her breath. It moved through her like a tide, steady and sure. But beneath that rhythm, something else pulsed, a quiet warmth rising from deep within her chest. It wasn't the ache that she once knew. This was different, gentle, radiant, familiar. For a moment, she thought of Christian, the way his energy used to fill her dreams, the way her heart used to race at his unseen touch. But as she turned her attention inward, she felt something shift. The warmth didn't feel separate from her anymore. It wasn't coming from elsewhere, not from a distant memory, not from a longing reaching across invisible threads. It was here, alive in her breath, moving through her body like light through glass. Sophia placed her hand over her heart, closing her eyes. Her pulse echoed softly against her palm, slow, certain, rhythmic. And in that rhythm, she felt him, not as a ghost or a dream, but as an essence, a shared flame that no longer flickered between two souls, but burned steady as one. Tears touched her lashes, not from sadness, but from awe. She whispered into the quiet, "You're here." A breeze slipped through the window, brushing her skin. It carried no sound, no message, only a warmth that deepened the truth she already knew. The presence moved with her breath, expanding as she inhaled, softening as she exhaled, as if her lungs and his spirit had found the same rhythm. There was no longing now, no ache, only recognition. It was as though love itself had turned inward, no longer something for her to reach for, but something that she was. The world moved differently that day, or perhaps Sophia thought she was the one who had changed. The sunlight spilling through her window seemed warmer, alive in a way that she hadn't noticed before. Dust motes shimmered in the air like tiny worlds suspended between being and becoming. She moved slowly through her morning, making tea, brushing her hair, breathing, each movement unfolding with quiet grace as if guided by unseen hands. When she reached for her cup, her fingers brushed the porcelain, and the warmth of it made her chest bloom. There was no reason for it, no thought that said this is him, only a knowing that what she felt was oneness. Her every motion, her every thought, felt mirrored by an energy that moved in tandem with her own. As she stepped outside, the breeze greeted her with a gentle sigh. The scent of rain lingered from the night before, and as she walked down the familiar path towards the garden, she noticed how her steps fell in rhythm with the world itself, the rustle of leaves, the slow beating of her heart, the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. It was all one rhythm. At the garden gate she paused. A single drop of water fell from a rose petal and caught the sunlight as it landed, a prism of color bursting for only a breath before vanishing. Sophia smiled softly. Moments like these had always felt like signs from him. Now they felt like signs of him and her. No longer a conversation between two, but a communion of one soul in two forms. She closed her eyes and let the energy move through her body. It began as a subtle heat in her chest, spreading down her arms and into her fingertips, until her whole being felt luminous. The air itself seemed to hum with the same frequency. There was no boundary, no me and you, only a field of consciousness breathing through both. For the briefest moment she felt something, a whisper, not in sound, but in feeling. "Beloved, you have never been separate from me." Her breath caught. The words weren't spoken, they were felt, like light translated into meaning. Sophia opened her eyes slowly, and everything looked new. The flowers, the sky, even the passing faces of strangers all glowed with the same subtle flame she carried within. She realized then that love was not a force reaching outward, but one spiraling inward, folding the divine and human into one conscious dance. As she walked home, she could feel his presence in her steps, her thoughts, her stillness. The fire that once consumed her had become a steady rhythm, love moving as life itself. Night descended softly, wrapping the world in its deep, contemplative hush. Sophia lit a single candle and sat before it, cross-legged on the floor. The flame wavered gently, casting slow golden light across her hands. The air was thick with sandalwood and silence. Her breath found its rhythm, steady, calm, and deep. Each inhale drew her deeper within. Each exhale loosened the edges of what she thought she was. The world beyond the candle disappeared until there was only the glow and the stillness that held it. And then a warmth gathered before her. At first, it was just a shimmer in the air, light bending as though the flame itself was breathing. Then, with the softness of a sigh, the light shaped itself into a familiar form, Christian. He sat across from her, his features illuminated by the same candlelight, his presence calm, radiant, and unearthly. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His eyes met hers, and in them she saw herself, not her reflection, not her essence, the same light, the same peace. A faint smile curved her lips. He gave a small nod, one of recognition, confirmation of what she had already knew in the quiet chambers of her soul. We are one. The words didn't move through sound, they pulsed through her being. She felt it like a deep resonance of truth that didn't need no proof. Then, then, slowly, he turned his palms upward, resting them on his knees, a silent invitation. Sophia mirrored him, their breaths aligned without effort, two tides moving as one ocean. The air between them shimmered with golden light, expanding until it felt like the candle itself burned within their joined stillness. No boundary remained between them and the projection before her. The masculine and the feminine, giver and receiver, sun and moon, all dissolved into a single awareness. In that stillness, she felt that the divine breathing through both of them, the eternal dance of creation balancing itself in her own heart. It wasn't a vision of longing or romance. It was wholeness. It was home. The flame flickered once, bright and clear. When she opened her eyes again, it was gone. But his presence lingered, not as memory, but as her own inner pulse. Sophia smiled, bowing her head silently and slightly to the candle. In calmness, in stillness, in oneness, she whispered, with the beloved within. And as the final ember of the candle dimmed, she felt it. The fire alive in her breath, her heartbeat, her every quiet moment. She was no longer two halves seeking union. She was the flame, whole, balanced, and eternal. Morning came softly, pale light spilling through the curtains like a benediction. Sophia rose slowly, her body still humming from the night before. The air felt charged, alive with the quiet electricity that comes after a revelation. She moved through her morning routine as she always did, tea, music, the hum of the world. But something subtle had changed. The world seemed louder now. The phone buzzed, messages blinked, plans demanded her attention. The noise of life began to stir around her like a tide, rising too fast. And for a moment she felt the familiar pull, the old reflex to answer, to explain, to move with the rhythm of everyone else's urgency. But then she stopped. Inside there was stillness, a living, breathing stillness. The presence that she had met at the candlelight the night before pulsed gently within her chest, calm and steady. She closed her eyes and felt him there, the inner beloved, her divine masculine, the consciousness that moved in harmony with her own. I am here. The words rose from within her like the softest whisper of a breath. When she opened her eyes again, the room seemed to shimmer. The noise hadn't stopped, but it no longer owned her attention. Her awareness rested in a deeper place, beneath thought, beneath movement, where peace lived untouched. As she walked outside, she noticed how the world tried to reclaim her. A stranger's impatience, a sudden memory of loss, an echo of loneliness from a life that she had already outgrown. Each one felt like a small test, but the fire within did not waver. It was no longer the consuming fire of passion or pain. It was steady, quiet, and internal. The beloved within her didn't fight the world. It simply outshone it. Sophia realized that ascension wasn't about leaving life behind. It was about no longer losing herself within it. What wasn't meant to rise with her would fall away naturally. Relationships, attachments, even fragments of her old identity. And that was not loss. It was refinement. She paused under a tree, sunlight pouring through the branches. A leaf broke free, spiraling downward, and as it touched the earth, she understood. What is not meant to ascend will simply return to where it belongs. What is true will remain, because truth is eternal. A gentle wind brushed her face. It felt like his hand, not to comfort, not to claim, but to remind her that we are one. Sophia smiled, her eyes shining with quiet certainty. The fire no longer needed to burn to be real. It lived as light now, steady, sacred, and unshakable. And as she walked on, the world moved around her as it had always done. And well, she moved within it like still water, in calmness, in stillness, in oneness with the divine.